Sometimes working on a project can feel like digging a hole in the sand. The walls keep caving in, and no matter how hard you work, you're getting nowhere. But guys, I think we finally hit the depth we need to go. I have been putting a lot of work and energy into the MR2, and I think I've finally gotten to a point where I'm happy and it's time to start reassembly. But before we do that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping, a little bit of catch up, and talk about Project RBZ, because man, it's starting to really get exciting and I'm happy to share some cool things. So first, everything's lined up with the tuner. It's happening this week, so the very next TueZday garage should be on the dyno, and that's gonna be freaking awesome and fantastic. Second, thank you very much for the suggestions about the adjustable end links. I ended up getting one. They haven't arrived yet, so we're not gonna be able to do that. Thank you very much for those suggestions. That's how the community comes together, man. It's awesome. So the last thing is, I talked really quick about doing some more dress-up bolts on top of the engine, and I really want to get your opinion, and let's actually put a poll up right there. Yeah, let's put a poll up in the corner and you guys tell me which ones you prefer. Here on this side I have put stainless bolts all the way down, and on this side are the original, I guess they're blackish green. Looking at them side by side, at first I thought the polished really stood out, but maybe not so much. Once again, just take a look. Tell me, which ones do you think? Put your response in the poll. I'm really interested to hear your feedback and what you guys think and what we should go with. I've got my opinion, but I really want to hear yours. So the RBZ is running really, really well, man. I'm super excited. I'm super stoked. I'm ready to get it on the dyno. I've been driving it around. I've been enjoying the sunshine. Even right now, the tops are off and it's good. Everything's exciting. Just ready to get this fine-tuned. So I did get questioned about, why is this car going to the mainland? Is that where the tuner is? No, that's not the case. The tuner is actually here on the island of Oahu. The reason why the car is being shipped to the continental United States is because I'm actually moving, only for about a year, to basically do the equivalent of completing my master's degree. I thought, what better way to enjoy the open roads of the US? Up to date, this car has only lived on the island of Oahu, and there's not a lot of exploring you could do. I mean, the island's only so big. I'm shipping this car to have it with me while I'm in school. I plan on being all the places. Z-Con, Z this, Z that, Z-Days, Z. I'm gonna freaking be at everything, man. Everything I can be. Hopefully it all works out and I see you guys at some of those meets. So in about another month, I'll be shipping the car off and I'll be moving for just about a year and finishing up my graduate degree. But enough about all that stuff, man. Let's talk about the MR2, because I'm excited. I'm fairly certain we are as deep as we need to go, and it's time to reverse that order, and hopefully by the end of this, we're out driving the MR2 again. So the last time we were together, we discovered that coolant problem. There was a lot of gunk. I didn't really know the way ahead. I had a really good conversation with the owner. When I'm working on somebody else's car, I don't want to take the liberty of making decisions that, you know, may not be what he wants, because the deeper we started to dig, the more problems we start to find, the more the expense racks up, and I'm not about to spend somebody else's money if they don't want me to. So we had a big conversation and talked about our goals for this project. His goals and my goals are a total harmony. We're not into the quick fix. We're into the big solution. We're into the next 100,000 miles already looking forward, the next 27 years looking forward. And so because of that, we're really doing extensive work. Everything pertaining to coolant has been torn out of this car. Earlier I fit that hose on here. I've taken it off because we're not ready for that yet. Up in the front of the car, the radiator has been removed. In the front trunk, I guess you could say, this line here is a coolant line and this line here is a coolant line, and they are actual steel. They're not aluminum, which may be to do with some of the rusting again. Like maybe if there was a higher concentration of water than coolant, that might be some of the issues. Here is the radiator. It took forever to drain this thing out and I could never get it running clear at all. It was just jacked up. We now have a new Mishimoto radiator that I'm going to be opening here and getting it on board. I really want to work at getting all the coolant line stuff back in. I have flushed out everything underneath the car. The other 4 radiator hoses that go to the front of the car. All right, so there's one there, there's one on the other side, and they attach directly straight over to the radiator on both sides. And then there were 2 kind of J-shaped ones. From these pipes here, it goes down, and then there's a rubber hose that then connects to a hard line, to 2 hard lines that run up the center of the car. And then those 2 hard lines show up down here in the middle underneath the car, and that's what runs to this side of the engine and to this side of the engine. I want to get all of that stuff hooked up. I have flushed out all those hard lines, man. There was so much gunk. I also took these lines off here, which are the ones to the heater core inside the car, flushed those out so everything's good. I flushed the engine out, so everything has been completely flushed, man. Everything. The focus now is on the timing belt. Everything's been stripped down, and let me tell you what, man, there is such a lack of room. It may look like there's room, but there's not. Even the air conditioning compressor had to be removed off the engine block just to pull the thermostat housing off to get to the thermostat. Everything has to be removed to get to somewhere else. Right now, the engine's being supported on a bottlenose jack, so it's not going anywhere. Check this out. Do you see how this frame rail kind of dips in right there? That dip is there specifically because it needs to be in order to get the crankshaft pulley off, man. Otherwise, there is no freaking way. Right now, this engine is lowered as far as it can go on this side, and still, if that little moon-shaped cut wasn't in the frame rail, you still would not get that crank pulley off whatsoever. So it's insane just how tight everything is. I'm gonna go ahead and put the water pump on and the thermostat in. There's gonna be some curing time involved. I'm gonna go ahead and work on installing the new radiator, all the new silicone hoses, and get the coolant system good to go. Then we'll come back and work on the timing belt. Just to kind of show you how bad everything was, here's the old thermostat, and it's completely stained and disgusting. I started getting concerned that maybe it was oil, but it's not. You definitely smell the metal rust. One of the other things I'm also changing out, the coolant temp sensor. See the old one and the new one side by side. Let me get this water pump in and the thermostat in, and then we'll continue on. Water pump and thermostat are now in. In the last video, I actually mentioned, and then I ended up editing it out, about oil leaks coming from the valve cover. It's hard to really get an idea of how far back this engine is leaning. If the head was full of oil, it would want to be on this side of the head and probably drain out if the valve cover gasket was rot. That's how far the engine leans back, man. It is significant. With everything set up here, it's time to start working on closing up our coolant system. That includes doing all the lines. Let's get those lines together. Let's unbox that radiator, and let's get this cooling system buttoned up and finished on this car. All right, new unit is out, man, and it looks fantastic. It's not generic. It's definitely specific to the car. Same little things that are needed on it for mounting the fan. All the necks are at the right dimensions. These whoop-de-woos on top are the same as these whoop-de-woos up here. So yeah, man, I'm pretty impressed with the quality. New radiator is in, and it looks fantastic, man. Perfect fit. Everything is all right about it. New hoses are in as well, and I'll tell you what, man, these things were a beast. The hose has a slight kind of S shape to it. You want to put the low side on the body, the high side on the radiator. What I had to do was get it in, basically bend these hoses in half and just kind of slip them onto the radiator. I'm telling you what, man, I showed it before, some KY jelly or something equivalent. It makes things happen so much easier for hoses, and it's water soluble, so it'll just kind of work its way away and dissolve. Good kit, good hose clamps, everything's on. Just need to get the fans on, and then we'll work on the next set of hoses in the mid of the car. Did I say just put the fans in? Bro, these things took some wrestling to get in. I mean, all the mounting points are there, everything's good, but the metal on the fans itself is very, very thick and not very flexible. And so just getting everything lined up was difficult, but it's mounted, everything's on, everything's plugged up. The brackets that go right here to hold everything in place, they're kind of crusty and rusty, so I'm gonna clean them up and paint them before I put them back on. So let's go ahead and move underneath the car. It's pretty tight quarters under here just because I don't have the car up as high as I probably could get it, but here is where it appears, right there. And then it's going to connect to that. That's the line that goes up and over inside the front trunk area. We just need to connect these guys right here from this to that on both sides, and yeah, easy peasy. I'm a hot, sweaty mess, but man, I got those hoses on and everything is awesome. I even got one more in the engine bay area there that comes out from underneath the car into the engine bay area. I'm not gonna do this one up top here or that return one over there either because I need to get the AC in place, but all the other brand new radiator hoses are done. Everything fits perfect. The kit's made for the car. It's not necessarily made for the engine, turbo or non-turbo. It's made for the car. car. So rest assured, if you want to buy the HPS kit or the Mishimoto kit, it works, no problem. But right now, man, I need to take a break. I need to eat some chips, drink some energy. I need to get cleaned up. My daughter has a concert tonight. I'm gonna go see my little baby perform. We're gonna get back to this tomorrow, finish up this timing belt, and put this dude back on the ground. Good morning, Amici. New day, new set of interesting things, man. I've already been in the garage for a couple hours, and so far so good, but it's been quite challenging, man. The timing belt on this car is nothing like a 300ZX, and I don't mean because of the 4-cylinder versus V6. It is way more complicated to really get right. Let me share a little bit about what I'm talking about, and you'll see I've already got the timing belt on, but it's been stressful. Welcome to the nightmare that is the side of the car, man. This cam here, tensioner pulley right there, crank all the way down there, water pump here, there's an idler pulley, and then that is the oil pump down there. The belt is completely on, and one thing about the belt is there are no marks on the belt itself to tell you where to go. And furthermore, there are no marks on the cam gear or the crank to tell you where to go either. So unlike a 300ZX where there's marks on the gears and then marks on the belt and you just line the marks up, none of that exists here, man. So it's purely off of position and tension. And man, it's been creating a lot of tension in my life. Let me tell you what, man. In order to really understand where the crank was at, I had to put the lower cover on and then just loosely put the crank pulley on. And once I did that, I was able to make sure it was on top dead center. There's really no marks here. There's this little divot right there. It's not referenced at all in the actual factory service manuals. I don't think it really means anything. I don't freaking know, but there's nothing in the manual that says that means anything. Once you get the belt on this side, you run it past that idler pulley and on the water pump, then you're supposed to go off the cam. Now the cam, there's no markings up here. Now you could see this little tick mark, and this is something I've made, and I made this based on the center of the cam. I took a right angle, laid it up against spark plug wells like this, took it back here and measured out the position of the actual cam cap, and then once I brought it all the way up here to the cover with this straight edge flushed against the wells, I was able to mark out a spot where a good timing mark is. The way you're supposed to adjust the cam and put it in the right position, you actually need a mirror or some human small enough to put their head in this 1-inch gap right here. All right, if I put this mirror right here, you could see right there that little pinhole in the actual cam sprocket. That little pinhole is actually a viewfinder to find a little tick mark on the head. Now, there's a yellow dot you see just above that. That yellow dot is, somebody's put that there. But the thing is that yellow dot doesn't actually match up with the hole because that hole matches up in between sprockets. So yeah, I can't see that hole. There's no way I could position any way to see through that little viewfinder hole and look at the tick mark. So going off of these two sprockets right in the middle, so the yellow and then just to the side of it, in between those two, and lining them up onto my white mark, that is how I've gotten to where I need to be. Now, it's either gonna be a little bit ahead or a little bit behind, man. And if it's a little bit behind, then this is actually ends up being about 5 degrees off. So I'm frustrated. This is pretty freaking close. Like, I don't know if you can really see those two little shiny sprockets are right straddling the line that I have made, which is center point of this thing. There's really no slack in this line, and everything is on top dead center. So this is either really right or it's just a little off. And it's not like I can just start the engine right now to see, because one, the engine mount's not bolted up, and it's freaking aggravating. Like, I don't know why would you design a... You know what? I take back any frustration I've ever had for a VG, dude. At least a VG made it pretty dummy-proof. This is pretty silly. This is pretty silly even for a technician, a Toyota technician. I could see this would be difficult. Now I just have to put the rest of the covers on, get the pulley on, get the distributor cap on. I'm gonna take some time, get all that stuff put back on, and then we'll meet back up when we're a lot closer to this being all back together. So I wanted to bring you back real quick. A little bit more of it's back together. I'm feeling a little bit less anxious, and I made some markings just to kind of better show you exactly what I'm looking at. So I do like I always do and put white paint on the numbers. You can see the little yellow tick marks. It is dead on 0. And then if we go up here to the top of the belt, I went ahead and with a Sharpie, I put a mark right between the two teeth that line up with that little teeny peephole on the actual sprocket itself. And that all lines up to to my mark, which is center of the cam as per the measurements I took based on the square off of the spark plug wells. Everything is lining up really well. I'm pretty confident that we're gonna be good to go. Next time I'll be back and this thing will be back together. This car's a test of patience, man. Nothing on this car has been easy. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest freaking bit. Just now I was changing out the spark plugs and one of them I could not get on. I kept putting the socket in there and it was like a squishy sound. And let me show you what I just fished out after probably 35 minutes of trying to get it. This freaking rubber end cap and this other little piece of rubber down on the spark plug. It's probably the end of plug wires, but dang, man. Anyway, I got the valve cover on now. Oh, so close. It's time for some freaking chips. Man, a good amount of time has passed and everything is back together. All the new hoses are on, new wires, new plugs, new goodness, man. We've replaced the coolant sensor. We replaced basically everything coolant related. Engine is all back together. Engine is bolted in. The only thing I haven't done is fill it full of coolant. The oil level is good. Don't have the intake back on because actually the owner watched my last video and said, hey man, I'm actually really intrigued what you were talking about with an aftermarket intake. So we're actually making an aftermarket intake for him. Just waiting on a coupler piece for this. I do have the air temp sensor, I guess that is, just kind of connected to the harness. So everything is good to go, man. I think we're ready to give it a start. I'm not gonna lie, man, I'm kind of nervous just because of the ambiguity that is involved in that timing belt. I couldn't have lined it up any better unless I had the engine out of the car. There was just no possible way to see through that little peephole, even with a mirror. Let me connect the battery. Battery connected. Everything is good. Let's go ahead and give her a start. Just make sure everything's good before we fill her full of coolant, man. Key, park, good. A little bit of extra noise just because there's no filter on it right now. Sounds super smooth, man. Sounds super smooth. Oh yeah. All right, let's get her full of coolant. It is now quite a bit later and quite a bit warmer inside this garage because I've had the MR2 running for quite a while, getting all those little burpy bubbles out of the coolant system, and it is good to go, man. The entire car is good. There's no drippity drops of any kind, no water drops, no oil drops, no smell of oil burning, no nothing, man. The coolant's a little bit contaminated, but that was to be expected because there's still gonna be a little residual disgusting inside the system. I'd say probably after a good couple 100 miles of getting that disgusting diluted back into the fresh coolant, probably wants to go ahead and flush this whole entire coolant system one more time and should be good to go, man. Should be really good to go. Can't quite button up the car just yet. The brake fluid in the master cylinder is a little dark, so it's probably baked and just old. So I'm gonna go ahead and flush all the brakes. All the pads look good. Looks like there's been a recent brake service, but I'm gonna flush all the fluid all the way through the calipers. So the only things I have left to do is put the hundreds of undercovers on because it's good, right? Car should have undercovers. Finish the cold air intake, get the hood back on the back. That's it, man. Oh, and bleed the brakes and put the tires back on, and that's it. Just those last couple things to do, and then this car will be moving and on its way. That said, I'm gonna go ahead and call it here, man. Dude, this has been quite the process. I'll tell you what, I'm very, very thankful for the development of patience. And I'm thankful for opportunities that teach me how to be even more patient, problem solving, and trying to find new solutions to new issues, because this engine has been challenging in very, very many ways. I'm learning a lot, and it was a really, really good experience. So I'm so thankful for this opportunity, and I just learned a lot. And I hope you guys picked up something too, because we did. We learned some things together, and if you got an MR2, I hope you learned. Guys, I'm so freaking stoked. The next episode is gonna be the dyno. Unless something crazy happens, the next episode's the dyno. We're gonna take it A to Z, start to finish, man. From the point I leave the garage to the point I come back in the garage, it's gonna be a good time. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, amici, ciao a tutti, and aloha. Bye-bye.